Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Find Me Your Book podcast. We are on episode 100.
Oh my gosh, episode
You,
100.
you probably just blew their ears out.
No, I didn't. Well, it's exciting. Episode 100, right?
It is, and it's about to be the 2-year anniversary. In a month, it'll be the 2-year anniversary of starting this.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
What a long journey
It really
it has been for you.
for me.
I am exhausted having watched you do all this work.
And then adding video into it.
Mm-hmm.
And then you being on the podcast more frequently.
Yeah, and I would say that I think my episodes are particularly the best, and everyone should listen to them. Every episode featuring the husband.
The husband. Well, I'm glad that you've been joining me. I think it's definitely added a little bit of spice and a little
Spice?
bit, not that type of spice, not like spicy.
This isn't an OnlyFans. Like this is a book podcast.
I know, but it's just added a little bit something, and so it's been really good. But yeah, episode 100. I am just so grateful to be here, and honestly, if you guys have ever seen that clip of Snoop Dogg where he's like, "I'd like to thank me for doing all this," I'm like, I mean, I know that sounds kind of like, but it's like, I would like to thank myself. Like, I did it. Like,
Yeah, you
I
did do
have
it.
done it for 2 years. Every week. I have skipped a couple weeks. So technically we should have
You
hit
have.
like
You
100
have.
like a couple weeks ago probably. But most of it has been I've been sick. That I missed like the couple weeks.
Or we were like moving across the country.
Well, even then I think I still did episodes.
Yeah.
But it's just I think it's when
At
I
your
was
husband's
sick.
request, I did tell you to stock up and record 2 episodes a
I
week
did.
prior.
And I don't know why I don't do that. I don't know. I feel like it's not as genuine. Like, because it's not like a weekly update. It's more like, hey, I'm doing this right now, but I'm going to post it in a month.
So if any of you ever wondered, this episode, primarily I'm going to be taking over and talking about Find Me in a Book podcast and the
Yes.
orders and the processes that she has established. So if you want to
Yes.
know the nitty gritty behind this, she does 1 episode a week.
I do. I like to...
Even though she reads like 4 or 5 books a week, she does 1 episode a week. And I tell her, you should record 3 episodes a week
know.
so that you could like take a month off
But
eventually.
do you know what my favorite thing to do is, though? Procrastinate. That's my favorite thing to do. It has been since I started school. I like to wait till the last minute. And a lot of people say it's ADHD. I'm going to say I like the excitement and suspense to see if I get it done. So that's what I like to do.
So just so you know, these last 100 episodes have been done 1 week at a time.
They really have. Well, sometimes I've done
Sometimes
like...
2. You have done 2.
Yeah, but then
I'm going to say 95% of the time, though,
Yeah.
it has been 1 episode a week.
Like either the day before I'm supposed to post or the day of I'm supposed to post that I'm
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, I got to do it.
Yep.
So, but
That's
it's been
good.
fun.
But I would now like to hijack your podcast,
Go
Find Me in a
ahead.
Book podcast, and make it Find Me in a Tav book podcast.
That's where the spice comes in.
Oh, never mind.
Hey, don't yuck my yum, okay?
Okay. Let's so how it's going to work is I'm just going to ask some questions. We're going to start out talking about romance books. So this is still going to be very informative for everyone
Yeah.
who wants to know about romance books. We're going to talk about the last 100 episodes because there's more than 100 books that you've talked about.
There is. And the last time we did, this isn't going to be like a get to know me, right? Because
It'll be just a little bit at the
Okay.
very end. We're just going to lightly touch on it because we do get to know you in episode 1?
no, episode 75 is when we did our last get to know me, and that was in
that's right.
April. So, I mean, I have changed since April.
So this is a quarter quell right now if we're going by Hunger Game rules.
Yeah, I mean, we have changed states in that time, so
Yeah, we have.
I am a different person.
Yeah. So we are going to touch lightly on that, but we are going to focus primarily on some romance books and give you some recaps
Yeah.
of the last 100 episodes.
And I hope to remember everything.
Yep, we will find out.
Okay.
I did not send her these questions ahead of time, so she is flying off the handle.
Yeah, so
All
there
right.
might be a lot of editing as I look through stuff to...
And if you're
see.
listening, you're not going to hear the editing, so it doesn't
won't.
matter. This is completely flawless.
That's right. We're perfect.
Yep. All right, so to get us started, what was the first romance book you ever read?
Gosh. I actually was thinking about this the other day. I asked my mom because I know that I started reading romance when I was like a teenager. So I asked my mom, like, hey, do you remember like when I started asking you to like read your books? Because that's what happened, is that my mom was really into romance books, like the Christian romance books, and I just started reading those. And so I asked her like what age it was, and she really couldn't tell me, but she said around like 13 or 14 years old.
Is a Christian
And
romance book like teenage or chicken soup for the teenage soul kind of thing?
no, it's
Is it like a Walk to Remember the movie? Is that considered a Christian romance book?
sure. I mean, there's just like some elements of like church and God and things like that. It was based in like the LDS culture. And they were like LDS authors, but there's just absolutely no spice in them, and they don't do any spice until like they're married, and it's just kind of like that aspect. And so, but I was thinking about it even further. The first romance books, to kind of circle back around, the first romance books I do remember, and they weren't solely romance, but it was the Thoroughbred series by Joanna. Can't remember, but I remember reading those in.
Joanna Gaines.
No, I think it's. I was just like.
Is Joanna Gaines an HGTV personality?
She is, yeah. She's
Okay,
from like.
that's right. I don't know why I thought Joanna. Okay,
Yeah.
but that's why, because
So,
I've seen her name on TV.
It's Joanna Campbell, and it was the Thoroughbred series that are based for like age 8 to 12 years, and it was about horses and about this like Kentucky Derby. And I remember
that's where your love of horses came in.
Well, I loved horses before, so that's why I picked up these books. But they had like a little bit of element of like romance, and so
Well, Joanna Campbell was going to be my second guess for
okay,
the author.
good. Well, there's 72 books, and I think when I was reading them, there was only like maybe 12. So, but that is the series that there were elements of romance that I loved, and so then I reached out and started reading my mom's books. So
Okay.
I think that was my first.
All right, that's good. So Thoroughbred.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the Thoroughbred series.
Good for kids.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Definitely good for kids. Definitely like good if your kids loved reading about horses. There's of course like little elements of romance, but it's not like the main thing. It's mostly about this girl that's training this horse that they were gonna like.
It's a book that a mom wouldn't have to worry about explaining something to her teenage daughter.
No, it honestly reminds me of Seabiscuit, like that movie.
Oh, that's
It's
a
kind
good
of
movie.
like it's kind of like along that line. And I remember it being very, very good. I loved those books. So I highly recommend those to moms of kids that love horses, love that element, and they're just wholesome books.
Yeah. Or if you're an adult that just likes
I would read them.
very mellow, tame
Yeah.
romance
I
and
kinda-
horses.
I kind of want you to buy them for me. So then when we do have kids, we'll
Okay.
have them.
Thoroughbred. I'll add it to the list.
Thoroughbred series
The list that I have of things to buy you.
that I send you all the time. Like,
Yeah.
here's my new list.
All right. Who is, of all the last books that you read that everyone has heard episodes on, just from those, because I know you've read more than this, who is the best lead character that is a male?
Oh my gosh.
Throwing a twist here. I know most of these books are about the woman, but let's hear about some of the men in these books.
Well, the latest series that I've been reading is by Rebecca Yarros, which we've talked about, the Full Measure series. And I've read the 4 out of 5 books now. And any of the guys in there are so good. Like, they are in the military, they are Apache helicopter pilots, and they just like do whatever they can to like serve the country, but also have great relationships with their family. And like, they're very spicy. They like are very just, I don't know, masculine. And
So Rebecca Yarros knows how to write
she does.
a male lead.
She really does. If
And most of these male leads, if not all of them, are in the military.
all of them, yeah. But it also translate over to like Fourth Wing, which was a huge hit, and Xander.
What's Fourth Wing? Is that still by Rebecca Yarros?
Yes, it is. That's the one that overtook Twilight. That's like the huge phenomenon now.
Oh, yeah, you told me that.
Yeah,
You know what? When there's a movie deal, I will then believe that it overtook Twilight.
I know. But just how she creates Xaden and like his character and the men in that book, like so incredible. So I think Rebecca Yarros has it just. She just does it
She
very
gets
well. She gets it, yeah.
Okay, that's good to know. Now back to the woman. Who
Okay.
has been the best leading woman character in the romance books that you've read?
Oh my gosh. The best?
I
I
know
mean,
it's hard to say the best because best is so subjective.
yeah.
But I mean, there's clearly like a top three of just like women that are like, oh, this was a great heroine or leading lady.
I mean, again, like Fourth Wing. She's really great.
So Fourth Wing coming in strong
Yeah.
on the male and the female
And
side.
the female. I'm trying to remember. Winter Renshaw, she does really great female characters. Tessa Bailey does really great female characters.
What are some
they're-
of the books that her name was Winter Renshaw
Yeah.
and Tessa Bailey?
Just her latest series, like the Hate Notes
Which one?
series.
Tessa Bailey or
No, Winter Renshaw.
Okay, so Winter Renshaw,
The
what's-
Hate Notes series.
Hate Note series.
She just came out with a book called Dear Stranger, and that female character, like, she is an attorney. She is just like so, just wants to be the best, but also is very kind and helps in women's shelters. And she knows like her flaws, and she tries to work at them, and just tries to overall be a great person and like keep everything professional. And I really like how
So she's a boss lady.
she is. Yeah, and that's what I like to read about is like boss ass bitch women.
Okay, what about Tessa Bailey? Who's a Tessa Bailey character that if they want really good female leads to read about?
Oh gosh, all of them. But I feel like her series.
So Tessa Bailey's a good author all around for
Yes,
any
she-
female lead.
She does very like soft and feminine, but also very spicy and very like headstrong women that they just know their worth, and they just like.
Sorry,
do
I'm just
so
going to
well.
keep on adjusting your hat. For those of you watching, I just want to make sure that you're able to see Tav's face.
I feel like a little schoolboy now.
Gross. Gross.
With the Tessa Bailey books, her series, It Happened One Summer, that one I kind of got annoyed with the female character, but she did a great like change in this book that you just love her at the end, because she kind of goes in and she's like this uppity, like spoiled brat almost, and then she gets sent to, I think, Alaska. I haven't read it in a while, but then she just like does this 180, and she becomes very like responsible and very like grateful and humbled, and like she just does a 180, and I really like that as well. And then in the second book, Hook, Line, and Sinker, her sister, she goes there as well, and she's just a really hardworking girl all around. And I like how they still have their careers and they still work really hard on it, but they also like take time for themselves as well.
Okay. So we've heard a lot about some good books from good authors that people
Yeah.
could check out.
Mhm.
What are some romance books that you pass on?
That I regret reading, or that like I
Well,
shouldn't have finished, or that like
all of the above. All right. I mean, it could be a
Well-
book that like you regret reading. It could be a book that like you couldn't finish. But what are some romance books that you yourself pass on? And you can say the names because we don't yuck other people's gum.
that's right.
And so we're still informing them of like, hey, here's this book about this.
Yeah. So definitely Haunting Adeline. That one has still messed me up.
Okay,
The one
what's
that you-
Haunting Adeline?
The one
about?
that you came home and I was like, I don't know what I just read. It was the
Was
one
this the
where he's
dark
the
romance?
stalker.
Oh,
Yeah. That one where it was just so
Yeah.
uncomfortable. And again,
so
it's
it's a
like
stalker love story type of deal.
it's like he forced his love on her though. Like
dark. So
it's
dark
a
romance.
extremely dark romance. I have a hard time with dark romances. I figured that out this year, or I guess at least since I've started the podcast, I found out that dark romances, like dark romances and reverse harems, are just not my thing. Like I try, I really do. I want to like them, but they just don't do it for me.
So Haunting Adeline.
Yeah, Haunting Adeline. Even the one that I just read, I talked about on the podcast, I think last week, but it's called How Does It Feel? And that one,
That sounds very provocative, just with the title.
it was a dark romance as well. And it just,
How
I
does
was
it feel?
well, I said last week that it was just almost like a gruesome crude that I don't do well with.
Gruesome
like,
crude.
yeah, like it's crude, but not like an swear type of crude. It's just, or like a joking type thing. It's just like crude that it's like really triggering, almost like details.
Teenagers who just like to swear.
No,
kind of crude.
no, that's the opposite.
What? Wait, how is that
I
the
just
opposite?
said crude. I'm meaning like this guy was talking about R-ing her. Like
R-ing her. Oh, okay. I'm following.
And
now. Okay.
like, but he was in like the same jail cell as her, and just talking about that type of stuff, and like,
oh, okay.
like that, like just I don't brutal. Like I don't know the word for it, like other than crude. Like it's just really sickening.
Okay.
Like
you and I, we use crude in different ways.
Well, that's the
but
thing.
that's okay.
I don't know the word to use for it.
Really hostile.
Yeah. No, that's the
Yeah.
thing. Books that have those elements, I have a really hard time with.
Yeah. I'm. Oh man, I have the word in the back of my head right now
Yeah.
that would fit it.
I
but
just think
it's
like
not
gruesome.
coming out. Yeah,
Like,
it's gruesome.
Harsh.
Obtuse. Graphic.
Graphic.
I
Yeah.
think graphic was what I was
Yeah.
trying to get at.
Yeah, when it's very descriptive and graphic, I have a hard time with. So we did it. We figured out the word, everyone. Because I feel like I've
Thank
been using
goodness.
crude a lot lately, and and every time I use that word, I'm like, I don't think that's the word that I mean.
You keep saying this word. I do not think it means what you think it means.
You're right. Graphic is the right word.
Graphic's the right word.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So those are some books that you pass on.
Yeah.
We know. But if those are your cup of tea, go
Yeah.
ham.
I mean, they had solid storylines. And
Well, from what you could get through.
yeah, well, like that's the thing. I wasn't lost in any of them. Like I knew what was going on. There were some parts that were a little bit over the top, but not enough that like I just couldn't keep going.
Okay. What is your favorite romance trope?
Gosh, I am a sucker for enemies to lovers, which is a very general trope. But
I feel like that's a really common.
it is, yeah. But
okay, I won't say common. That's a very established trope.
It is. No, you're right.
Tried and true. Hallmark does it.
Mm-hmm.
Shakespeare did it.
Right. And
Most
so
comedy, romance, rom-coms do it.
you're right. And so a lot of people add tropes with it.
Yeah.
And like sub-tropes and everything like that. And so I think I really like I'm not a big fan of like second chance romance. But yeah, within the enemies to lovers, I like when it's like in a fantasy genre.
What are some high fantasy enemies to lover stories out there that you would recommend?
Well, the Crave series by Tracy Wolff, that one's not like a true enemies to lovers. Like when she gets into the school, they're not like technically enemies. They're just like he's the popular guy, the vampire, like over here. It's kind of like Twilight.
Okay.
Yeah. But it's like a forbidden romance. I think that's what it is that I like the enemies to lovers within the fantasy, and it's like a rival to lovers, and like just a forbidden romance I really like. And just things that like they're just complete opposite, and then they just come together, and you're like, you just feel so satisfied that you're like, I knew you guys would love each other. Like, I knew it.
How did the author know?
I mean, a lot of times they're predictable, but that's just what I like, where I'm like, ooh. And sometimes when there's like two love interests, I'm like, who's she gonna be with? Like,
Are there any other enemies to lovers books that you would recommend?
I mean, the tried and true Blood and Ash series by Jennifer Armentrout. Jennifer Armentrout does enemies to lovers very, very well. Like, and it's also in the fantasy world. And she has like an alien romance that's kind of like a forbidden romance that's really, really good.
Another alien book?
Yes, but it's like based here on Earth.
Oh.
And like, it's just, that one is so
Not going
so
off to
good.
the ice planet with the
No.
other barbarians?
No, that one. The first one is called Obsidian, I think. Oh, that's one that I was talking about. I think it was a different one, but I kept saying onyx. Is that the right word? No, I
Well-
kept saying onx
Oh.
instead of onyx. And
Yep,
when
it's,
I like
it's onyx, not
Yeah.
onx.
yeah. Anyways, she does it really, really well.
What about Colleen Hoover?
What do you for what?
I don't know. I just saw her name there. I'm like, oh,
Oh.
we talked about Colleen
Yeah,
Hoover at one
Colleen
point.
Hoover. She does a lot of different tropes. Oh, one series that I've kind of talked a little bit about that it really is like enemies to lovers, and it's honestly like the world against him. It was the Four Horsemen series by Laura Thalassa, where we've kind of talked about it before, but she has 4 books, and they're each of the Four Horsemen, and they've come to basically end the world, and then they each fall in love with like the woman or whatever. But I like that
So 4 different women keep the world from being destroyed?
exactly, but that's the thing is like these men, like they don't know anything about love. They don't know anything about the world. They're just kind of these beings.
Well, thank goodness they fell in love with someone.
Well, that's the thing that they're so surprised. Like, what is this feeling? Like, why am I like basically obsessed with this person? And it's the woman being like, "What the heck, bro? Like, you're about
Chill,
to,
bro.
yeah, you're about to end this world. Like, why are you obsessed with me?"
It's called the Four Horsemen.
That's what the series is called.
Oh, okay.
The first one is just called Famine. Actually, no, the first one of them is called Famine, of course.
Famine, war,
Yeah.
pestilence.
Famine is book 3.
And death, I think.
Yeah, Pestilence is the first one, War is the second one, and then Famine, and then whatever.
Death. I
Death,
think.
yeah, is the third one.
That's a pretty ominous title.
Yeah, I mean,
for a romance
it is
book.
like a dark romance, but it's not
Wait, is it
gruesome.
a dark romance?
Yeah, it's a dark romance, but it's also like enemies to lovers, and like,
Okay.
but it's not dark enough that I was uncomfortable. So yeah, those
There you
ones
go.
are really,
Four
really
Horsemen,
good.
Laura Thalassa.
Like they're just these manly, masculine beings, and they like just start to love these women, and the women are like, "Whoa, what?" And so that's another reason I like it too, is because the guys pursue them.
Now, you read a lot of books.
I try.
So much so that early in our marriage, I was like, there is no way you are reading that many books. There's no way. And you can retain them. He said, no, I retain them. I remember them. And I was just like, shut up. No, you don't.
Well, just not off the top of my head. If someone were to say like, "Oh, this book and this one," I'd be like, "Oh yeah, okay, I've read that. This is kind of what it's about," but not off the top of my head. Like these questions are really hard. Like,
So how many books do you actually read? Like, how fast do you read? I feel like we tried to like time it out.
yeah, we've timed it a little bit, and then in April we did as well. It's about the same pace as then.
What is it? Like
where it's
1
like-
page a minute or something? Like if someone gave you a book
Yeah.
that was 300 pages, how long would it take you?
It'd take me like 3 hours, so like 100 pages
100
an hour.
pages.
Yeah, and I was looking at my Goodreads the other day, which, by the way, if you guys are on Goodreads, which I
Goodweeds?
Goodreads, hey, you don't know what we're doing. On Goodreads, it's an app, and you can also do it on your computer. So I'm on there. You can friend me on there. It's just Find Me in a Book podcast, and so you can see what I'm currently reading. You can see like my shelf of what I have read. You can see my ratings. I'm friends with my sister on there and a couple other people. So definitely give each other a follow. We can become friends. But it tracks everything.
Yeah.
So you hook it up with your Kindle app, and then as you finish a book, it tracks it. And so I was looking at my shelf earlier today. So this year I've read 79 books. But that's just on here. I've read a couple like physical books too. So I'd say about like 83 books this year. But I guess I have a goal of 150. I don't know if I made that goal for myself or if Goodreads was like, yeah, we're just going to give you this number. So I hope to reach it.
Maybe it's like a badge. Like after you get to 150 books, you're like a level 7 book reader.
I don't even know. Okay, and then also on the Kindle app, it tracks everything. And it says in 2023, I've read 87 titles. And then 2022, I read 107. And then it just kind of tracks my years. So I've been able to track like how many and what books that they have been. And then I can see like I've read 105 weeks in a row. So that was since October of 2021, which tracks because that's when I started the podcast. So I read.
And this is on Alexa or what?
No,
is
this is just on the Kindle app. So yeah, I like those different apps that I can track the books that I've been reading and all of that. So it helps with all the books.
Huh? That's good to know. If you want to keep track of your books, try those apps, Goodreads and Kindle.
Yep, the
Kindle
Kindle
app.
app.
Now, we're gonna get just a little bit more into the history of it. We've talked a lot about books now. What did you start this podcast for?
What did I start it for?
Yeah, thinking back 2 years. What did you start this podcast for? Like, why?
I think I just wanted an outlet to talk about them, because I could talk to them. I could talk to my sister and my mom about them, but they don't read a lot of the stuff that I read. Like, they read some of it, which I can still talk to those books, but that's how they get their book recommendations, is through me, which is fine. But I felt like I needed to talk to more people about it. And it's not like I'm really talking to people, I'm just talking into a microphone. But it just gave me some way to like get my excitement out, instead of being like, I just read this book and I don't really know how to like feel my feelings. So I feel like talking through them has helped a lot, and just having this platform to like be into the book community more, because I feel like if I didn't have this podcast, I wouldn't have like gone through like book talk or reached out to people or talked to people on different platforms about books. Like, I feel like I still would have been in like my little hole just reading. But what inspired me to like take the step to do the podcast, I was listening to a different podcast. It's called The Bad Broadcast. And people were asking her like, how did you know you wanted to do this or do a podcast? And she said, you know what, I made a list of things that I love. And then from there, I took like my top thing and I figured out what I wanted to do from there. Like, I took that next step. Like, how do I make this my job, or how do I make this become my everyday life, or like, what are those next steps? And so I had made that list of things that I loved, and books was the number one thing. And I thought, how do I do this? Like, I don't want to become a writer or like an author. And the next thing, I was like, well, I really like to talk about books. I like reading the books. What kind of fits into that? And I was like, oh, a podcast. Like, and even if I don't ever get paid for this, that's totally fine. Like, I just like talking about books, and I like just being in the atmosphere of books and involved and all that. So that's kind of where it all stemmed from.
Yeah, and has it been fun?
It has. It's been...
I mean, you've done it for 100 episodes, so hopefully it's been fun.
It's definitely fun. It's been a little stressful in some little moments. For the most part, it has not been stressful. Like, I have learned how to prepare. Like, I knew how to prepare things, but like, it makes me more aware in the books that I read, because I highlight things and I think about them deeper, that I'm like, oh my gosh, I could talk about this on the podcast and this could lead into this conversation. And I feel like I'm more aware in the books that I read, and are trying to pinpoint like the characters and what I like about the book and what I don't like about the book. And I'm just giving more thought into it. And it's created this whole new experience while reading that I think has been really beneficial.
But what is the end goal of this podcast? What do you want Find Me in a Book to be for everyone listening out there right now?
I honestly would like this podcast to be a great source for someone to go to find new authors and to find new books. So my overall goal, I would love to like partner with different like publishing companies or authors themselves to really get their books out into the general public. Like, whether it be like through interviewing them or through me reading the book and talking about it and like highlighting it, but I really want this to be a space to get those people and the books to like the next level, and have the general public be aware of them, and have it to be on like their TBR list, and just another source for the authors to get their project out.
Yeah, so you want to be a resource for every reader out there and every author out there, whether they want to promote their book or whether people want to find a new book out there. You want to be their friend.
I want to be their Google.
You want to be their Google.
Their book Google.
Yeah. If you want to make it easy for them to find the books and stuff, what's the best way they could do that? Follow you on Instagram, subscribe, and like on YouTube?
Yeah, both of those. But honestly, just scrolling through my Spotify and seeing the titles. And I try and do like a little excerpt in like the the info.
To kind of describe what the book is a little bit.
Yeah, so I post them all on there. But if there's a book that you see somewhere on like social media that you're like, oh, I want to know more about this, definitely, go to the Spotify, Apple Podcasts, scroll through the different episodes, see if I've done it. One day, that would be super cool to have like a website that they can just like type in the book and then it would pop up the episode. Like that would be super cool.
Also, if there's a book that you want her to do that she hasn't done, comment it on Instagram or on YouTube. And if she has done it, she'll tell you the episode. And if she hasn't, she might give you a shout out as the person who recommended it to her. So follow her on Instagram. Find Me in a Book Podcast on Instagram. Listen to her on Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts at. Subscribe, like, comment on YouTube, share. And then if you know some publishing companies out there who want to put some new authors out in the space, tell them to give her a ring.
You're so good at this.
Email her.
I think you're very convincing.
Am I?
You're so convincing.
I can't tell if you're being facetious or not right now.
No, I'm not. Before we go, I would like to share what I'm currently reading.
Okay.
Or like my TBR
I'm sorry, we don't have
list.
time for that. Just go. No.
Okay. So, like I mentioned before, I did finish the 4 out of the 5 books of the Full Measures by Rebecca Yarros. And then I did read You or Someone Like You by Winter Renshaw. And then her Dear Stranger book that she just came out with. So good. I am about to read book 3 on the Miles High series from Liz Tomford. It's called Caught Up. So that one I think I'm going to start tonight. And then, what else? I think I might start on the new Jennifer Armentrout book, which is Fall of Ruin and Wrath. I don't know yet, though. Like, one thing about, which I've talked about earlier, with Jennifer Armentrout, she just gets so deep in her world building and characters that it's kind of hard to get out of or, like, to get back into because it's just so detailed. Oh, that does remind me. I need to start reading those other books from Jennifer Armentrout because there's a third book in a different series that she's doing that's coming out soon. So that's actually what I'm going to read.
Okay.
So as I'm talking out loud.
Something your listeners can look forward to is you actually have 2 authors that are going to be making an appearance on your podcast.
I do.
Too.
Yeah. Next week I'm going to be interviewing them and I'm really excited. So
are you allowed to say the author's name yet?
I think so. One of them is Allison Greenberg. I think I said it last week. She came out with a book maybe once, maybe twice.
Are you allowed to say the book title?
Yeah, because it's been released.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
That one was released at the beginning of October. And then Elaine Roth is coming out with a book November 7th. And so I will be interviewing her as well. And we'll be talking about that book. I can't remember what the book is called right now.
Well, if it's coming out November 7th, you probably aren't quite allowed to say. Well, maybe you are. I don't know how book releases work.
There wasn't any, like...
I don't know how
authors
hype. Keep their
No, it's just
books.
hype.
All right. I don't understand the book marketing industry. I understand
That's
e-commerce. Okay. So, yeah, look for those 2 episodes coming out next week.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything you would like to tell your listeners about the 100th episode?
Gosh, I just want to say I'm sorry for the very first episode. I haven't listened to it again since I released it, but I know I honestly...
I'm sorry for the first... Not thank you for listening all of these times.
No,
I am sorry for the first episode.
But hey, everyone's first episode is probably rough, and I just... I haven't listened to it again, but I think ever since I changed over to the new sound system, I just feel so bad for the previous episodes that the sound was so terrible, that there was like a crackling static, and I have lived, I have learned, and here's to the next 100 episodes. I went from this huge soundboard, just huge.
Big soundboard.
To a very little handheld thing.
Yeah, it looks like a taser.
So I apologize for the sound for those first, 20 episodes, 30 episodes. But I'm glad that we're improving.
Sorry.
We're improving. We're doing better. And I'm just excited for the next 100 episodes. I really want to do a giveaway. So if everyone could subscribe to or follow my Instagram, that is where I am going to be announcing the giveaway. I'm really excited to do it. The details will be there. I'll be posting it most likely tomorrow, which will be Tuesday, October 24th. And yeah, I'm just excited to do more episodes and talk about more books and meet authors and just continue to immerse myself in this community. So,
All right. Well, why don't you sign off on your 100th episode?
this is Tav signing off on my 100th episode, saying that I'm very grateful for each and every one of you. And I just appreciate every single listen and every single view that you have on my social media, and just every interaction that you guys do. I'm just grateful, and it's been so fun, and I'm just looking forward to the next. I'll talk to you guys next week.
Love you. Bye.